Now, this particular topic is really geared towards my entrepreneurs and those of you who are working within your business. Now, with that, we're going to be talking about advertising and how advertising must give you ROI. Now, I am Amy Rose Herrick, and I am America's Profit Building Specialist, but we're going to go right into sharing our screen and get started today. So we're going to go from the beginning, and we're not going to be on too long today, but I think this will be very helpful for you. So advertising, it's something that every business does, and it really doesn't matter how large or how small your business might be. Advertising or marketing, whichever word that you'd like to use, is something that is an ongoing expense of the business. Some of you may do it organically. There are all different types of ways to do it, but we're going to focus specifically on when you're spending your dollars for your advertising. So many of you, when you think about your advertising, I'm going to try and shift your mindset about advertising must give you ROI, or a return on your investment. And I've worked with many business owners that really haven't put in place the mechanisms to know what type of an ROI, if any, that they're getting on their various programs. This is another way that we can definitely build your bottom line that we're looking at. So when I talk about ROI, an ROI is really, it's a calculation, because we need to know when you invest in anything, whether it is advertising, a rental property, if you are buying a set of chairs for the dining room, whatever the case may be, we need to know if there's going to be a return on investment. Now, there are some things that you don't expect a return on the investment. You know, if I fed my kids dinner, I probably would expect a thank you, but really I'm not going to see any monetary issues. But with advertising, we really need to spend the money with advertising and make sure that those dollars that we spend give us a return, and they give us more than we spent. And an example of that would be if I spent $1,000 on advertising. Well, I need to earn in profits, and the key word is profits, not sales, in excess of $1,000, or I have had no return on my investment, and I actually have a negative return. Now, if I spend $1,000 on advertising and I earned $5,000 in profits, then I have had a 500% ROI. That would be excellent. Depending upon what I did, that may not be a number that's high enough. If I spent $1,000 on my advertising and I only got back $100 in profits, well, then I have lost 90%. So it's something we can very easily track that affects your bottom line. Now, your cost basis is simply what you paid for something. Cost basis, let's go back to maybe I bought dining room chairs that are for our break room, whatever. So if I paid $250 for 10 chairs, well, then the cost basis is going to be $25 each. So those are a couple of terms you should know if we're going to walk through this a little bit. Now, some of you don't really know where to start on how to know if you have a return on investment or an ROI. So we're going to take this hypothetical company, and we're going to say that we had $750,000 in sales, and we sold 3,157 units. Doesn't matter what the units were, whether those were hours of services or they were little blue widgets. And when I take that, you'll see on the calculations on the right, we took 750,000 in gross sales divided by the units sold. So I now know that my gross average sale is $237.56. It's a number. Sometimes for some of you, it's a place to start. And then when I go back and I look at the end of last year with my accountant, or looking at the taxes, I determined that I had $52,118 in profits. Now, if I take my profits divided by the units sold, that tells me that my profit per unit was $16.51. Now, if I look at the gross sale average and I look at the profit per unit, now for some of you, if you're doing a large volume, $16 per unit may be enough. But if you look at the gross average sale price, the first thing that my math is going to do is say, wow, I'm not even doing 10% on this particular one on what my profit would be on the average per sale. May be a business model that is workable. It may not be. Now, if I go through another little example here, if we had $1,500 that we spent on 1 month of an advertising program, and I had 8 sales because of the program, then I lost, or it cost me, $187.50 for each unit that I sold in just an advertising cost. Well, at this company we looked at, well, my average sale was $217.03. Well, it looks like maybe I covered the sales. So does that look good? Well, not necessarily, because when I just looked at it, I only generated $82.09 per unit in profit. So if I go over here and I say on your left-hand side, we've got $82.09 in a profit. I made 8 sales in 1 month on this advertising program, and I only made $656.72 in profits. Now, if I take my profit minus the cost of my advertising, which was $1,500 on the right-hand column, I lost $843 on this marketing program. I did not have a positive ROI. I had a negative ROI. And what if I'm not paying attention? And this is a very small example. What if I'm not paying attention and I'm doing something like this every month? Well, let's do some quick math. That's 85, 95. So we have almost $10,000 in our profits that I would be wasting on advertising programs that are not making me any money. Now, in addition to that, I usually like to use the multiple of 10 for 10 years. If I'm not paying attention and I'm doing something like this once a month or 12 times a year, I am taking away at least $100,000 from my profit and my bottom line. You can't do this in very many multiples before you're out of business. Now, an example number 2, very simple. You're going to see at the top of $500. This was a 2-week advertising program. It was a very targeted particular thing that was done here. And we had 48 sales over a period of 1 month. Even though they did the advertising for 2 weeks, they stretched it out on tracking purposes. Now, the advertisement cost per sale ended up in this case to be $10.41. If I look at the right, my sale profit minus my advertising cost, I made a little over $51 in profit per item. If I go down towards the bottom, so $51 in profit per sale times the number of sales, which we knew was 48, I had a profit of just over $2,400. Now, if I take my profits minus my advertising costs, now in this situation, I definitely had a positive ROI because my profits in this case were just over $1,900 for a $500 investment after I had covered the cost of that. So do you see the tremendous difference? Even though they spent theoretically less on this one, if we looked at this over the course of a year and I looked at $1,900 in profit, I would have almost $24,000 of profit, even though I did a smaller program that was more successful. And what's 24,000 times 10 years? Now you're talking over $240,000, a tremendous difference to what your bottom line could be. Another thing that we could look at, because there's different ways to work this. If I'm looking at doing a $2,500 1-month advertising program, whatever it is, and I know that this particular item that I am selling, I've got a profit of $72.05 because it's something I have to know the answer to. I have to have at least 35 sales in order to pay for the program. Now, before I ever begin a marketing or advertising program, I want to know if this is going to be profitable, because if it's not going to be profitable, there's absolutely no reason for me to do it. In this particular example, we're going to be working Monday through Friday for 4 weeks. So that's just under 9 sales per week that I've got to do. So about 2 units a day on average have to be sold just to be able to pay for the advertising program. Now, if historically I can see that that is not a viable number, or that is going to be difficult to do, after all of that work, at this case, If I think, yeah, I can do 2 of these a day, no upsells, just 2 of these a day, I would make about 28.82 minus the cost of my advertising for a $382 profit. Is that worth it? The answer is probably not. If you have to spend $2,500 in order to make a profit of 382, we either need to tweak the program or we need to change what we're selling. Would it be profitable? The answer is yes. But in reality, if you don't get right on the mark of selling 2 of those units on average every day, you're going to have a negative ROI. So I'm hoping this helps you see that we can attack this problem from a couple of different directions, but we want to know whether it's going to be a profitable program before we ever embark on it at that point. Now I'm showing you a few pages that are out of a workbook that I've got some other formulas and things that go along with it to make it very easy to pull out of your records and answer some questions. And this can be done by either you or with your staff to give you the answers before you ever sign another agreement for any type of marketing or advertising program. I want you to start knowing in advance whether this is going to make you money or this is going to cost you money. Now, in a couple of the pages, and this is a PDF workbook that goes along with the course, you'd be able to print this off and use this over and over again, and as you work through. So in this particular one, I set a campaign number. Maybe you're looking back over the ones that you did in last year or in the last 6 months, and you can determine whether these are things that you want to repeat just by pulling up a few numbers and working through it. Simple things, and you should keep a record of this. I've seen some people that keep a notebook or a couple of notebooks that they can flip through and find examples because they like to touch the paper. I have other individuals that they have got files that are out on the cloud so that each one has a folder that they can, see quickly what the results are. Maybe they save in the files what the masters were for any graphics, marketing materials that they had. Notes, whatever the case may be. This is something that you will develop that works within your model, but you definitely want to start keeping track of these things once you start this process, so you can go back and look at programs that worked very well. Can you tweak which ones didn't? Because you are not going to remember. We can't remember those things, from year to year, and staffing can change, the seasons change, buying habits change. We've all seen that over the last few years. So this is just some very basic information. And whether you're doing a 1-day promo or a 3-month promo, it really doesn't matter, because we want to start tracking each individual program that we have. Now, in the workbook that comes along with this particular program that I have online, it'll give you the exact steps and formulas that you can walk through. Now, what would it be worth to your bottom line for as long as you own a business to predict which advertising programs will be profitable? Could it be worth thousands of dollars this year? Could it be worth millions of dollars? That's something that depends on whether you choose to apply it or not. How much would you pay to know in advance that an advertising program you're considering would be unprofitable and in the end cost you $5,000 of your hard-earned dollars every time you repeated it? Well, using my course and using the materials and the workbooks that I have for you, we can eliminate a lot of these things, or at least have a relatively good way of predicting what our results would be versus just taking it and guessing. Guessing has not been working for many of you. The other thing that I encourage you to do when you are looking at making changes in programs is there's a summary of their advertising program. So if we went back and we did several of these, and you'll notice that I put the word proceed, because if we review some programs and we look at what the potential profitability would be, or how many units we have to sell, whether it's viable or not, you're going to be able to see very quickly whether the program is viable. Do we proceed? Yes or no? What is the estimated loss or profit? And looking at it, remember the one program when we did it, we projected it might make 300 and some odd dollars. That may or may not be enough for you. And this is a way to cut down some of your efforts in that area. And then, of course, one of the things that always comes into mind when we've got down to this list is I want you to take, what are the projected cumulative profits from analyzing several different advertising programs before you ever launch them? And I want you to take that times 10 years. Because if you start dialing some of these things in and you are now conscious of it, what type of a difference could that make in your profitability over time? And for many of you, it's going to be staggering. Then I want you to also look based on the list that you have compiled up above, because we'll be able to see, what they are. What are the cumulative losses that you have avoided? That's money that you got to keep instead of throwing away. And in many cases, what I want to get you away from is taking your hard-earned profit dollars and adding them to the bottom line of whoever you are doing the advertising with, and taking it away from your own bottom line. This is not a process that will work. So again, there are tools that we can do, and there are things that we can do that make this very easy for you, but the whole goal is to increase the bottom line that you have. Now, at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing my particular screen at this time, because I'm going to go ahead and end the sharing at this point. There it went. And with that, we'll go back to the live audience that I have, and we'll be doing some Q&A at this point. If you will look into the show notes, you will be able to see that I put a few resources in. You've come to the YouTube channel that I've started building because of multiple requests that I've had. Please look at some of the other episodes. You want to subscribe. In the show notes, I'll be able to show you how to access the other courses that I have. If you will go to my Facebook page, I'll be using that going forward, where you'll be able to see a list. If you go to the Facebook page, go under more, and then go under events, any of the live sessions that I have that you'll be able to pre-register for. I have two different avenues that I'm working with now. The one avenue is specifically for entrepreneurs to help you build your bottom line through my company, The Secret Profits. Then the other avenue, all of my business owners have personal financial issues too. The business may be different. We have individuals, and there's an individual track that I'll be talking about a lot of your personal, your estate, and your financial issues. So I think all of those will be very helpful. Thank you for joining me today. You have a blessed day, and please reach out if I can be of service.